In this video, I'm going to show you how I took 5/8 thick tongue and groove boards, planed them down on the thickness planer, sent them through a drum sander, ripped the edges off on the table saw, cut rabbet joints, cut box joints, and made assembly trays, or trays to put sort mail in. One shred, one in, one out, and one scan. So I bought a bunch of this wood from a place going out of business. 5/8 thick. They were probably 8 to 10 feet tall. And I went through the process of getting this with the goal of making these trays to sort the mail. Watch it and follow as I build these. Now that I've got all the pieces cut, I'm going to laser engrave the fronts of the trays. One's going to say out and in, shred and scan. This is for my incoming mail, just to sort what needs to be done with it. So I use the laser engraver to do this on just the front pieces. I also cut a little area to cut a scoop out later, and I'm going to do that with the bandsaw. So I've cut enough parts to make 6 of these trays. And I'm going to do some with the rabbet joint and some with a box joint. So these are the stacks of the pieces, the front, the back, the side. And now the next step is going to be to dado, or use the dado blade to cut a rabbet joint in the sides of the trays. And then I'm going to cut a groove for the 1/4 inch bottom. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch bottom for that. So this is just looking at the 6 stacks of all the pieces to make these trays. So I've cut the rabbets, and now I want to cut the groove. So I've adjusted the height to match the rabbet for the dado, so I have the same amount of wood remaining. I'm going to do 1 pass, the thickness of the blade, and then I'm going to also run a scrap piece. We'll call that a test piece. I'm going to run the second pass, make sure the plywood fits inside there. Once I like that, I'm going to run all the other pieces the second pass, because I'm doing this 2 passes on a single blade. So now I'm just going to dry fit all the pieces together. Now I'm going to go to the bandsaw, and I'm going to cut that scoop out in the front of for the front of the trays. So I got to do this on 4 of them at this point. So I'll do that with a 1/4 inch blade on the bandsaw. So now I'm going to go to the spindle sander, and I'm going to sand the bandsaw marks off and ease those edges. So I'm going to do that on the 4 pieces. Now I'm going to dry fit these, measure for the bottom. I've ripped the bottom to the width. Now I'm cutting the bottom to length. First time it was a little bit too big. I trimmed some off. Now I'm going to go back and cut 3 more because I'm making 4 of these drawers. I'm going to dry fit these again, make sure that everything works, everything's the right size. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to sand the inside only of these. I'll sand the outsides later after the glue dries. So first I'm going to sand with 150 grit, and then I'm going to go back with 180 grit. Because when I sent all these through the drum sander, there were some slight scratches from that, because I think I was using 100 grit on there. So now I'm just sanding the inside, went up to 180. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to fit these together, glue them, and clamp them. I don't glue the bottom just floats. I'm just putting glue on the end grain on the front and the back, and I'm going to put some clamps across the front, and I'm going to double check that they're all square inside. So I use some Bessie clamps on the front and back of the first one. I'm going to use some quick rip clamps on
My
the
goal was
second
to
one.
make
And then I actually
them
went back and
with a
sanded some more
box
pieces.
joint and some with the rabbet joint. So the ones I'm doing right now are with the rabbet joint that I rabbeted the sides and I fit the front and back in. This wood is Aspen. I used 1/8 inch Baltic birch for the bottom. I cut the letters out with a laser and I'm gluing the last one up. So this has a rabbet joint on the ends and a groove for the bottom. So let me glue this up so you can see how that went. I got 3 of them done. This is the 4th one. I have sanded them to 180 grit sandpaper. I did send them, they were originally 5/8 tongue and groove boards, and I ripped them down to 3 1/4. I sent them through the thickness planer and brought them down to 1/2 inch, and I also went through the drum sander. There were some still little scuff marks from the drum sander, so I sanded it with a random orbit at 150 grit, then 180 grit. And I'm going to put glue on the end grain of the front and back piece that fit into the rabbet joints. So this would be typically how you build a drawer, where you cut the rabbet in the sides so you don't see it when you put the drawer front on. In this case, you're going to see the rabbet joint from the front. And I scoop these out like I would do a pull-out drawer. I'm using the Tight Bond 3 glue. I'll put some more glue on there. The rabbet joint I cut on a dado blade on the table saw. Did that in one pass. The wood's 1/2 inch thick. I'm using a variety of clamps because I have different clamps, but I'm using these jet parallel clamps on the last one. I really liked it. I just recently got these over the last year or so. Probably haven't used them since I got them, but compared to the Bessie clamps that I'm using, what I like about this is it adjusts very easily. Pull that trigger, slide this back, slide that on there. And the handle's a little bit bigger and it's got kind of cushiony, and I can put a little bit more force on that than I feel like I can with the Bessie. I have older Bessies, if the newer ones are different, but these, I have 4 of them that I got. And just out of doing these projects, just right now, I find these clamps to be superior over the Bessie. I'm double checking to make sure it's square before the glue dries. So usually just check opposite corners and that should be right, or you can measure diagonally across. Unfortunately, I have the clamps in the way, so I can't do that. So now I have 4 of these put together, just making sure the front and back are pushed all the way in, so I don't have to sand a whole bunch of the 1/2 inch off. So now I got 4 of these boxes. One says shred, one says scan, one says in, one says out, and you can see the different clamps that I used. And I'll probably wipe them down with a clear wipe-on poly when I'm all done. But there you go. Spent the day doing these 4 drawers. I also have some that I'm doing the box joint on. So I'll do another video on how I did these, but the box joint. I did this one on the Shaper Origin CNC handheld router, the box joint jig built into it. I did another one where I used the Panto router, and I set them for a loose fitting so they'd go together real easily, but I'm kind of regretting that. So I'm gonna redo this and do it a little bit tighter. So you can see here I did the box joints on the corner of that. Just these are a little bit looser than I'd like them to be, but I can tighten those up. So this isn't glued together yet. So it fits a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I like the box joint. I just wanted to do one of each just to show that. So there's my project with a tray to kind of sort the mail for paper, what comes in the mail, what needs to go out, what needs to be sent through a scanner, and what needs to be shredded. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy these type videos. This was Aspen wood. I'm going to do some more talking. I already previously talked about all this stuff, but I'll show some pictures of that at the end. Thank you. Bye.